Live.
Officially
So
live in the building.
in the building, man. So for everybody who don't know, me and Joel, we don't go way back, but we go slightly back. And hey, like you were a big inspiration for me starting this, man. Just seeing how you move, how you continue to develop and grow. Like it's just something that like is super inspirational to me. And like I wanted to create this just because I looked at all the places that men had online, and it was all like full of fuckboy shit. Like it was like heavy machismo. It's like it's all about getting as many women as you can, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly.
Um it doesn't really focus on personal growth. And you somebody that I've seen grow a ton. Can you go into like what kind of spurred the change and what went into, who you were before, who you are now, and who you are planning to be moving forward?
So, like you, I never really found a lot of male support that was on the level that I was on. It
Mm-hmm.
was always, like you said, real machismo, real fuckboyish, real, really just focused on men who always wanted to win with low energy. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Not people who wanted to experience life and express themselves a different way. Just, I showed up, so you should just take me as I am. Why do I have to do all this extra stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And in my experience in life, that has never worked for me at all. I've always been like a highly emotional and sensitive person. But
Yeah.
because nobody helped me define that when I was younger, it just always made me feel like an outcast all the time. And so
Mm-hmm.
if I think about that in comparison to most of my life, I was just reaching a point where it's just like, I need to express myself. I need help and I got nowhere to get it. So I guess
Mm-hmm.
I got to make it for myself. And
Yeah.
so that's really what pushed my journey to be in the spaces that it is. And I guess I could also say, like, you would always have an idea about how things are supposed to look, what they're supposed to
Mm-hmm.
be like if you get to a certain point. And I'm being constantly reminded my imagination isn't sophisticated enough to match reality. It just ain't. Anytime I think it's going to play out a certain way, it just does it so differently. Or it could still be in the same theme, like the outcome is still going to be the same, but
Mm-hmm.
the way to get there is so unique. Then I'm like, damn, there's no way I would have ever thought it could be like this. And so that's
Yeah.
why I feel like this level of exploring masculinity is just different because since I didn't see anybody telling me before, you got to explore your feminine side as much as your masculine side.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still seeing, I feel like a much better man now just because of it, though. Like, I'm
Right.
still going to get to this destination, but it helped me explore these different parts of my life to get me into a better space. And who knows what it would have been like if all I did was just stick to that same fuckboy knowledge that you were talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I think that as men, we're always expected to experience and just move on from it. We're never given the opportunity to kind of sit down and think about something and strategize how we move. It's like, all right, you can cry right now, but you better man the fuck up and move on. And
Mm-hmm.
even the people closest to us, our parents, our significant others, all that, they still don't give men the proper channels to express themselves in ways that are positive.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of the stuff we do see now is negative reflections of men not being able to express themselves without ridicule.
Exactly. And I think one of the most important lessons that I had to learn was that nobody's going to make this space for you. You got to
Yeah,
make it yourself. And that's
yeah,
because everybody else has been indoctrinated to believe that boys and men don't have a need for feelings unless it's towards a task.
yes,
So they
yeah,
only focus on how you feel in regards to the task. They don't focus on your well being overall. It's only
mhm,
in relation to people and what they want from you. And
yeah,
a thing that I realize men have to stop doing is waiting for somebody to see you as a human being. Because in reality, we do the exact same thing to everybody else. We
uh-huh,
don't see them as human beings. We see them as objects to use or
hmm,
people to be under our influence, but we don't see them as like someone who suffers like I suffer, someone who bleeds like I bleed, someone
hmm,
who's unsure like I'm unsure. And so it's kind of like a twofold issue that just does a complete 360. It goes right back to where it started, just simply because everybody's working on expectations instead of trying to solve the problem.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
communication really is the problem. It's like whatever we figure out right now would be 10 steps ahead of anything that our parents were able to do, 20 steps
Mm-hmm.
ahead from their parents,
Mm-hmm.
30 steps ahead from the grandparents, so on and so on. And that's why I feel like it's important to figure some of this stuff out now, because there's just no reason, especially if we're finally talking about it now,
Mm-hmm.
for the younger generation to have to get caught up in this now. Like, we should be making it our goal to start figuring out how to fix this problem so that the next batch of young boys growing up are not told, don't cry, keep that shit to
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
We don't need that no more.
Yeah. That's a big thing, hitting the kid in the chest.
Mm-hmm.
Man up, B. Man up.
Exactly. Man up. And I mean, like I'm thinking about when I was growing up. Like, my pops is a traditional Grenadian man from the country. He grew up on a
Mm.
mountain. The expressions of child emotions, I can finally understand now. He wasn't going to get a chance to pull that off like that when he was growing up. So therefore, he didn't let me do it when I was growing
Right.
up.
Right.
And of course, I blamed him at first
Mm-hmm.
because he didn't understand what kind of damage he was doing to me. But then
Yeah.
as an adult, I had to realize, well, he kind of went through the same thing I did. Actually, he went through it worse because he was the youngest of 11 children. He grew up poor on a mountain in a small country.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, he got the last of everything, all the last of the resources, the last of the love and parental guidance.
Mm.
So then he
Mm.
was the first to come to America and start establishing himself because he was the last to get anything out of what he had. So he
Yeah.
literally left to create something for himself.
Mm-hmm.
If I think about it in those terms, it don't feel personal anymore. It
No.
don't it
No.
don't feel like he was just like, oh, fuck my son. No, he didn't say that. He just
Yeah.
didn't know what to do because all he had was what he had,
Yeah.
and that makes sense to me now.
No, yeah, I agree 100%. I feel the same way in some regards to my relationship with my father. But has communication changed with your father? Because with mine, it really hasn't changed that much. It's like the relationship we built is hard to break from that training, right? It's
Yeah,
like you want to come back and you want to be more vulnerable, but you remember all the times where you couldn't be. So it's like, I'm just gonna keep this to myself.
exactly. So I'm gonna say this: the communication has changed, the outcome
Mhm.
didn't.
Oh,
But
okay.
the reason I say that is because I had to say something for my own sake. I had to tell him how I felt. I had to
Mm,
find the right words to express what really, really was hurting me for all these decades without accusing him or pointing a finger at him.
mm,
Because I
okay.
understood after a while what kind of person that my father is, and he ain't really the kind of person that you could just be like, you know, you messed up, and he gonna say sorry. That's not him. He's not him
No,
at
hell
all.
no.
My father is a complex person, and he
Mm,
thinks that he's allowed to do whatever he wants, and everybody else will just let it happen. And that's not the way it works. But at the same time, he still is a sensitive person. He still cares.
mm,
Is this you got to
mhm.
frame the context properly for him to get to that space.
Right.
So when I was able to finally tell him how I felt, I did it without telling him that I was angry or anything. I just told him that I was disappointed and I
Mm,
wish that we could have had a different scenario. And then he told me like he was sorry for like not being able to be that kind of father, but that he was never that kind of person to begin with.
mhm.
And then I left it at that. I understand my father is who he is. He has many traits that I am not happy about at all, but that's
Yeah.
still my dad. And
Mhm.
I'm not going to try to tell him to be something for me after
Yeah.
all these years. I'm going to tell him to just be who you are. And at least
Mhm.
now I know what reality looks like. But
Yeah.
what's always interesting to me is that one of the reasons I came to terms with that is because I always distinctly remember maybe about like, I think it was about 2014, right before I got like a year before I split with my ex-wife.
Mhm.
And my father come up from Grenada. It was his birthday. And so I called my brother up in Buffalo. I was like, yo, you should come down. We can all do something for dad. My father comes up with his girlfriend. And, it was this whole thing where like we just wanted to do something special for him, but he's not really like a do big for me, kind of. He wants to do big for himself. Like, he'll do it, but don't do it for him.
Okay.
Yeah. So then we were just like, all right, well then if you don't want nothing crazy, we could just have a family time with you, just all three of your kids together, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So we got a chance to get him to come down. He comes over with his girlfriend. Now we're all cool. We're going out. We're buying jerk chicken for him, buying him a meal and everything. We get back to the crib, and my ex-wife was just like, Steve, what was immigration like when you first moved to this country? That man proceeded to talk for 3 straight hours. In my lifetime, between me,
Never.
my sister, and my brother, we haven't heard 3 hours of conversation from him combined. So we were shocked. We were shocked and angry, honestly, because it's like, why the hell would you never do that with us?
Yeah, yeah.
But in hearing his story and in hearing, and then thinking about what he's like when he's around friends, when he's around certain people, my father picks and chooses when he wants to be vulnerable, when he wants to open up.
Mm-hmm.
And I just understand that when it comes to loved ones, he's just not going to be that kind of person with them because it's more about action for him. I did the thing that shows you that I care. I don't have to talk about it. Like, that's how I interpret it from him. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I understood after a while that, like, he's not going to change per se, but he knows facts now. He knows how I feel. So there's nothing left to talk about. I can't get him to be the kind of person that I wish he could have been, but I can respect him as he is as long as he understands how I feel.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense. So you said it has changed, but it hasn't. Has your relationship developed at all? Or are there more boundaries that he respects now? Or
I think it's more or less just like he directly talks to me about stuff that he wants to do. And it's like, well, at least he'll fill me in on stuff. Like, it's not easy to have a conversation with my father. Honestly, it always ranges into a 2-minute thing. It's 90 seconds of him talking about himself, and then the 30 seconds left for me to talk about what I need to tell him. And then that's it. And at first, like I said, they used to piss me off a lot. But over time, I just came to recognize, like, that's just him. He's just information-based. He's not really going to go that deep with me. But at the same time, the reason I say that the outcome didn't change is because the outcome was what I wanted. The outcome that I wanted was for us to be closer, but that's not how it works. So what I decided to do was just accept him as he is. That's my father, but he was a man first, way before he was my father.
Very true.
So I'm trying to be better at accepting the man. And then that also helped me frame okay, I don't got no kids and I don't plan on it. But if I ever had to be around children, how would I want to portray myself? What kind of person would I really want to be? And that gives me a better idea. Because in truth, although it doesn't seem like it, my pops is great with small children. He's always kind of funny to them and everything like that. I think he just has a threshold where he just stops giving a shit. And I feel like that's a lot of adults. Everybody loves babies because they're all cute, but as soon as they start walking, it's not so cute no more because now they're about to start a mess. I get it. So it's what really changed was me. And not him. It was me. I had to change the way that I framed things. I was trying to turn him into a villain because that's how I felt that he was. But that's not really what my father was. He wasn't a villain. He was a volunteer. He volunteered. Yeah.
Okay.
He volunteered to be someone who still hasn't figured out certain things about himself.
Right.
And I can hold him accountable for it, but who's better at holding someone accountable than that person?
Right.
I can't make him do something that he wouldn't choose to do on his own. So by accepting him as a person just like that, it made me realize 2 things. That A, when it comes to masculinity, it's a lot more intricate than we ever get to talk about it. And B, what affects masculinity is time. The eras that you grow up in always change how you feel or see things. You only got what you got. Just because someone was born in a time before us and they've seen a hell of a lot more doesn't mean that they're ready for what's coming.
Very true.
Just like for us who are born in this time, we're learning a lot of stuff from the people before us. But would we be ready for what comes down the road that supersedes anything that we know? You know what I'm saying? Here's the thing, for instance. How's your father with computers?
He's one of those like really tech savvy people. He invests a lot of time and effort into understanding software and things like that. So
Yeah. Now, see, that's a general interest for your pops. So
mm,
that's why he was able to keep up. Because I know, like most adults, getting phones with all these gadgets and apps on it, that's one thing. Even
yeah.
watching a grown adult type at this time in 2022, some of them still using the two fingers just like this and taking a half an hour to write a 10-word email.
Yeah.
However, yes, that was my father. But the first time he told me that, oh, he just exclusively watches stuff on YouTube, I was like, "What the hell? You watching YouTube?
Like, you know what that is, bro?
That's what I'm saying. When I first saw him make a Facebook post, I was like, I'll be damned. Let me find out. Because I'm thinking most of the time I had to be the one that was going to help him out with this stuff. But no,
Hmm.
he figured it out. Prior to that, though, my dad did act like a dinosaur. Like he just couldn't catch up to anything. He was just staying in his position.
Hmm.
But like I said, that shows me as a person, he has his own interests. He has his own
Hmm.
desires. And when he wants something, he's going to make it happen.
Yeah.
But that doesn't translate to everything that I think he should be doing.
Yeah.
And
See,
I
I
feel
think.
like for any son, that's exactly how you look at your father. It's just like there are certain things you need from them and they can't
Mhm.
do. And you wish that they could do it, but you have to understand just because we're both speaking English does not mean we're speaking the same language.
Right. Right.
So it just forced my hand into understanding like how to communicate with him and how to accept what he does as it's not what I want
Mhm.
it to be,
Yeah.
as is.
Yep. See, yeah, and I've noticed that too with the way you communicate overall. You're very direct, you're very matter of fact, and it's like it's not selfish, but it's unapologetically you. It's like
Yeah,
this is the image that I'm portraying to the world. Take it or leave it. I'm not here to deal with your feelings.
mhm,
If you wanna kick it, let's kick it. If not, that's cool too.
exactly. I mean, well, look, you spent time around me, and so
Yeah,
even from the first times that you got to meet me, I was very, very shy and in my head a lot about my appearance and how I look.
reserved,
My
very
health
reserved.
was always in shitty condition, so I just felt after 2+ decades of just being treated like some kind of freak that that's exactly what I was. So
Mm,
I just never saw myself outside of those lights.
mm,
But I think with any human being, you always reach a threshold where enough is enough. And one day
mm,
I was just sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. And I was just like, I don't have any feeling left. There's nowhere left for me to go. So either we're
mm,
going to pull the plug and drain all this bullshit out of my system, or I should just die because there's no other point in dealing with this. I'm not going to spend the rest of my life miserable as hell. I, I'm in Brooklyn. I can see misery in every direction if I want to.
mm,
But I refuse to just let that continue being the story of my life. So slowly but surely, my main game plan was to watch Black women. Because by
mm,
watching Black women, that's where I started to understand what it means to be unapologetically yourself.
mm,
Because I'm thinking about it from the space of a minority. When you are a minority surrounded by the majority, whether they realize it or not, is always fucking with you. And then when they do it, they try to get you to feel guilty and crazy because you shouldn't have a negative reaction to what they're doing. They always
mm.
just like, well, at least I'm giving you something. Like,
Yeah.
like that pat on the head is really supposed to mean something. So as a man, if I start listening to women and they tell me how horrible it is to be a woman, how much difficulty that they have to experience on a daily basis just trying to figure stuff out, yet they still choose to go above and beyond this threshold of self confidence that we say they should have and
Mm,
let it grow even higher on purpose,
mm,
then why can't I learn from that? Because that's someone defying the odds. That's someone breaking out the box that everybody else in life is trying to force them in because they're like, I didn't build that box. It's not meant for me. So leave me
mhm.
out of it.
Yeah.
And by understanding that, it made me more compassionate to the idea that like we think in stereotypes because that is how easy it is to work with humans if you just limit how much information you need about them. But if
Mm,
you take humans on as they fully are, they're so
hmm.
complex and limitless that
Yeah.
it is overwhelming. And not everybody in society has the capabilities of dealing with that. So
Mm,
we just marginalize people and then make it easy to just like, well, this is how you can treat that person because, screw them, they're not that important.
right.
But when you're trying to figure out your own self worth, if you pay attention to that, you see how damaging that is. You see
Mm,
how the world then is designed to make you feel like a piece of shit from the very beginning, as long as you don't do what other people say that you should be doing or being who they want. If
mm.
you really take a step back, you really understand 9 times out of 10, everybody's living through fantasies and they're not addressing reality at all. Just
What do
even
you
now.
mean by that? What do you mean by that?
So just put it like this. You're going to the store.
Hmm.
You're about to pay for something. You go up to the register. For a split second, you imagine what this person is going to say to you just because you're
Mm,
about to do a transaction.
hmm.
But now what happens if they be like, hey man, that's a great shirt right there. When
Ah,
when all you did was just expecting to be like, yeah, that's 9.99.
yeah.
Now they created a whole different scenario, and now you might be able to engage in a conversation with this person when
Hmm.
before you were just like, this is a transaction.
Right.
That's what we do to everything. When a man sees a woman in the street and he starts catcalling, he's building up a fantasy because he wants her to react the way that he wants her to react. Meanwhile,
Yes.
she has no idea. He just took her face, put it in his imagination, built a whole storyline, and is waiting for her to live up to it when she has no idea what's going on.
Ooh, that was a bar.
See,
Bro, that was a bar.
see, that's what I'm trying to say. We do this every day to people. We
Huh.
fantasize about them, and then we get upset that they don't live up to the fantasy.
Wow.
So, like I said, I've been like
Wow.
deconstructing all this information because I had to start questioning why do I believe the things that I believe?
Hmm.
Because other people taught it to me. But then
Yeah.
it came to a point where it's just like, but I don't, something feels off about it. I don't like that. Like this, you can't tell me it just is what it is. To be fully honest, humans don't have the range to say something like that. Like we only have five senses.
Hmm.
Yet this entire planet has so many things within it that have nothing to do with our senses. But we'll sit here and say, like, well, it doesn't exist. How would you know? You don't have the capabilities to find out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're just talking out of our ass.
Yeah.
And for a species that prides itself on facts, we barely use them. And
That's
I'm like,
true.
and I'm like, as I was paying attention to things, as I was paying attention to the sources of masculinity, when I'm going and reading textbooks about history, what I found is that in every corner of life, there was always someone who began to look at things differently and felt that something was not right.
And they
And
were
then came up with
ostracized for it.
exactly, and then came up with a concept that utilized all the information that was already on the table, but was just like, so then why don't you consider it this way? And then by doing that, they invented something, they revolutionized something, they brought awareness to something. That's
Yeah.
how you pivot a shift. That's how you create a change. You acknowledge that something is not right with the accumulated information that was already given to you versus the experience that you're having. And then you start to acknowledge that, oh, there has to be more than this. It can't just be this alone, you know?
Hmm.
And so that overall is like how I started to build up my awareness that these stereotypes that I've been working with, these images that have been given to me, these words that have been shared with me, they're not enough. There's more
Hmm.
to it than that. But
Yeah.
I'm the only one who would be able to do the work to a satisfactory level for myself
Hmm.
to find out what all of this means. I can't wait for somebody else to do it for me.
Yeah.
And so then that became really the true purpose of how I got to where I am right now. It's just like every time I was starting to feel something, I put it against the rules that were told to me about how to be a man in this society. And then I started to realize the rules was bullshit because they didn't make any exceptions to the rule. And that
Yeah.
doesn't make sense because if you're really honest with yourself, life is about probability. Everything is about numbers. It can mathematically, if you're going to make 7.8 billion people, there has to be deviations from the standard amongst all
Mhm.
that. That's too high of a number for everybody to be the exact same.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that's why we have to have different races. That's why we have to have different genders. That's why we have to have different illnesses. That's why we have to have different birth deformities. That's why we have to have mental illnesses. Like something has to change in each of these spaces mathematically simply because the probability for it all to be the same thing is way too weird. So it
Mm.
has to extend across the board. And if I'm able to accept something like that, it makes being human a hell of a lot more human than just being like, nah, it just is what it is. I don't know why it is that way, but it just is.
Mm. Yeah.
So I just simply look for reasons based on information, facts, and experience,
Mhm.
but I choose not to let my opinion be the truth. My opinion is just how it makes me feel.
Right.
The
Right.
facts are always right there though. And that's how I've learned to like deal with all.
So as you become more self-aware, do you think that you've slowed down a bit? And when I mean slow down, like you say, like we're opinion based. We try to put everything into and compartmentalize it and put it in a box. So when you became more self-aware and you realized that your opinions didn't matter so much, when you deal with regular people, are you slower? Do you uh take on the experience a little bit more and develop it? Like you said with the cashier example. Instead of
Mhm,
just using it as a transaction, you say, "Oh, I like your shirt," and
mhm.
you slow down the interaction and you try to develop it a bit more, despite how trivial it may be.
Yes, exactly. And it just exactly from the example that you used. I create analogies because if there's one thing that people will do, they will connect to something that reminds them of something they've already experienced.
Mm-hmm.
So if I
Yeah.
find something that's relatable to you, but then I can bring it back to the same exact topic that I'm talking about, you start
Mm-hmm.
to realize it's all connected one way or the other anyway. It's all the
Yeah.
same shit after a while.
Yeah.
And the main thing to me is like per person, everybody brings something different to the table. It can
Mm-hmm.
all look the same after a while, but the 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 beautiful part about self-awareness and the growth that comes from it is that you automatically start building up filters and you start eliminating access that people would have to you because those people are no longer allowed to be near you because they don't have the credibility to be near
Yeah.
you. Now, when people don't know themselves, they think that they have access to everything. That is
Mm.
why it is very, very hard for men, for example, to be rejected by women because we are told that women are here to be subservient to us. We are
Yeah.
told that women are here to be objects of our desires. We are not
Mm-hmm.
told that they are human beings just like us who come with a complex amount of systems and issues that are created through the societies that we build. That we're not
Mm.
told that.
Yeah.
So when you have young boys growing up trying to get girls' attention, whatever it is that you tell them is exactly what they're gonna do. So if you tell a young boy that young girls aren't, you don't have to worry about respecting them. She's not your
Yeah.
equal. You can say whatever you want to say. That's exactly what they're gonna do. And then they turn into grown men who feel the exact same way.
Yeah.
There becomes an entitlement with that. Now because of the
Yeah.
entitlement, feel like you can say or do whatever you want to this person and there's no repercussions from it. So then when this person says no to you, you're like, what do you mean no? How dare you?
Yeah.
Like, I'm the
Yeah.
one with the power. So how can you mean no? But no consideration that woman also has power of her own. No
Yeah.
consideration that that woman does not like this person or what this person represents because of how he approached her, how he's dressed, how he smells, how he's looking at the time. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? It's again the fantasy. I
Yeah.
exist and I feel a certain way. So what I want should happen. It doesn't take anything else into account. It's very selfish and one-sided.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to accept that makes it clear that like you don't have power. You think you do, but you really don't.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even more so than that, if you take a step back and just listen. You gain a hell of a lot more than you lose.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole point. If I get rejected by somebody because I'm not her type, ain't no reason for me to take that personally anymore. Because to
Mm-hmm.
be truly, truly honest, did I ask myself if she was my type? Did I ask myself whether or not there's something about her that's giving me a reason to want to talk to her? Or
Mm-hmm.
am I just doing this because I'm telling myself a story and I want to live up to the story?
Yeah. Program. Am I just talking to this girl just to talk to her, just to
That's it.
fulfill this carnal desire to
That's it.
just,
That's it.
yeah.
Like in a very funny way, the reason I learned that lesson is because when I was going to all
Sorry.
these, no, you good. When I was going to all these kink parties,
Woo.
for example, you know,
Woo.
yeah, see, right in your eyes, right in your
All right,
like,
my bad. Go ahead, man.
no. So, like, for instance, the reason I learned that lesson is because I started going to these kink parties in the last 3 years and learning about sexuality and
Ooh, that's too bright.
more or less consent. Yeah, I could see it just giving you a 10 right there. Started going to these kink parties and then learning about consent.
Mm.
And with consent, it was making me realize how much communication is very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
And I can go into that later, but really the reason I brought it up is because, I'm going to these spaces and you be like, you're seeing people naked, you're seeing people having sex, and then you be like, I want to do it too. And then I
Mm.
was like, I kept falling into the space. It was just like, I'm not really attracted to people here, but because I'm here, I got to do something. So who would I do it with? And
Mm.
more, I was like, wait, why would I say that to myself? Like, if I'm not attracted to anybody here, why am I trying to force myself to then have sex just to say I'm going to get a nut? That don't
Yeah.
sound right. That sounds like
Yeah.
I'm about to use somebody. And
Mm-hmm.
then I was just like, wow, that's messed up. So I'm just go out of my way to smash somebody I'm not even attracted to. Bro, that's real low energy. And the more I thought
Yeah.
about it, I was like, yo, I've been doing this all my life. That's mad weird. Like so many spaces in my life where I was just taking the option that I didn't get, that I didn't like because it was on the table. And I was like, well, I have to walk away with something. And then the light bulb finally went off, and I was like, yeah, walk away with your dignity, nigga. Like, what are
Yeah.
you doing? Like, you
Yeah.
do not have to do this. We do
Yeah.
not have to debase ourselves in this situation just to say I have something.
Yeah.
And so, like, that kind of feeling changed the way I look at things. And then
Mm-hmm.
again, it gave me more awareness. And the more that I'm able to accept these kind of facts, the easier it is for me to realize I do not have to accept a lot of things that I've been accepting all this time.
Yeah. So have you noticed that like any people you thought were your friends before, when you started to come into your self-awareness, did you notice that some of them that you lost relationships with people that you previously thought that were your friend, and they were just cool with you because
Mhm.
you would take the option on the table and not have, the self-confidence to assert yourself and define the borders of the relationship.
Mhm. I, Dev, I'm gonna be real, real, real honest with you. I came to the conclusion that like 97% of the people in my life were just straight up emotional vampires, just sucking the shit out of me,
Damn.
just taking away from me. That's because that's how I was built. That's how I was raised. I
Yeah.
was raised to be subservient. I was a people pleaser. And
Mm.
my anxiety turned me into that more and more because the initial kind of interaction and care that I needed from my family, they weren't able to provide for me. They didn't
Mm-hmm.
realize what kind of person that I am, anything like that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
for instance, now after, getting tested earlier this year, I now know I have ADHD.
Okay.
So that
Ooh, I
explains
thought
a
you was
hell
gonna
of,
I thought you was gonna say something else.
oh, no, no,
Ooh.
no.
you
No,
had
no,
me
no.
scared for
Nothing
a second.
dangerous.
I
Nothing
was like,
dangerous
oh
is like
Jesus.
that. But I'm saying I'm bringing that part up simply because from the very beginning, I had cognitive functions that had issues, but no one was able to pay attention to that for me. So then
Mm-hmm.
I'm just thinking that everything I'm experiencing is normal. And now
Mm-hmm.
as an adult, I'm aware it wasn't normal to begin with. I had an issue from the very beginning, but because nobody was able to work with me on it, I had to do the upscale battle of just making it my everyday life while also being eviscerated in all these spaces of my life because I'm not doing the things that people are telling me to do. So then
Mm-hmm.
to make my anxiety easier to deal with, I just became a people pleaser. If I do everything that everybody wants, they'll like me. And I believed that for such a long time. But between friends, family, my ex-wife, all this other stuff, there became a gradual breakdown over time that this was not true. And then I started to feel frustrated because I'm like, so then what am I supposed to do? I don't understand it. And then going to therapy, going to these self-help um, uh, workshops, learning more about myself, I started to see what a natural, healthy relationship with anybody is supposed to look like. And then I accepted that most of them in my life weren't like that at all because I didn't have any boundaries. So then, of course, the minute I started building boundaries, people mouthing off. And especially because of the pandemic, I instilled my boundaries even further. And the way that people was coming at my neck, it was like, wow, you think I just made an enemy? Like I just said, fuck their mom with like a broken glass dildo or something like that, because I said I don't allow these things to happen anymore. But it's really because people feel entitled. If I give you free access to me, and then all of a sudden, I'm being like, if you want to be here, you got to pay this subscription fee. You're gonna have a question or two for me, and I can understand why. But I got a question for you. What the hell made you think that this was gonna be free and you wasn't gonna give me nothing back in return? Or the bare minimum that you did give me, you think that that's worth what I gave you? Hell no. So it's just like, yeah, I had to drop a lot of people. I had to have a lot of sobering conversations with people I cared about and realize you are just basically a virus and I want no parts of you. And even still, I got people in my life, slowly but surely, they're getting snipped too, because the more I'm paying attention to them, the more I realize I don't want you in my life where I'm about to go. And that's the part that I feel no shame about anymore. That's the part that I definitely don't feel like I have to alter in any kind of way. I work way too hard to get to this point.
Yeah.
I ain't about to let anybody slip that up for me just because they ain't their feelings. Because I need reciprocity. And that's the thing that I couldn't get in the past because I didn't realize I was worth something in the first place. So now that I do, if you ain't gonna give me what I'm asking for, just get out of my way. That's really all it is.
Yeah. Now, have you had anybody do the opposite? Somebody who's in your life for a long period of time and they like, man, I like this new dude. Keep it up. Like, you know, I'm proud of you. Let's keep it pushing.
I have. And honestly, again, Black women, watching them do it. And again, learning a lesson about it. And both when it happened to me and when I'm watching them do it to other people. I've had people be like, I can't be around you anymore because you can't be the friend that I need right now. Get in my feelings for a second, but then realize they are absolutely right because I don't value them the way that they're valuing me. Sometimes you could ask questions like, why didn't I value that person the way they did? Because they didn't do anything for me that made it seem like it was for me. You cared about me the way that you cared about me, but you didn't invest in me long enough to find out what I need from you to grow these feelings.
Yeah.
So, especially if you have a way about you that draws people to you. People think that how you act is meant for them. They're not paying attention to the fact that this is just you in general.
Yeah.
Again, making up the fantasies. So they think if I'm nice to you, if I treat you kindly, if I treat you with compassion and respect, oh, he must like me. I'm sorry, but this has been my MO for like a decade, for the last 3 decades of my life. So I don't know how you made this about you, because unless I say it's for you, it's not.
Right.
And so I learned that lesson from other people doing it to me realizing I was assuming things about them or that they were going to give me things just because I was kind to them or nice. And it didn't work out like that at all. I've recognized when I've been cut off because I wasn't stepping up to the plate the way that that person wanted me to. I recognized when it just wasn't going to work because both of us just didn't have the output to give towards these situations. And they were the first to cut me off. Like, I don't know a dude alive who hasn't just waited for a woman to drop him because he just felt like after a while, whatever it is that he had to offer, she wasn't really going to take it. So instead of just stepping up to the plate and just being like, look, I got to tell you, like, I don't think that I'm in a good space for you. And I think that I have to take a step back. They'll just wait until she's finally like, oh my God, you're not doing this. We need to talk. And then turn it into a whole negative thing.
Yeah.
I'm recognizing now, sometimes you do need to be proactive. Sometimes you really do need to be self-aware and just be like, the people that you find all come in different tiers.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you're above them, sometimes you're on the same level with them, sometimes you're below them. But
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, you're supposed to make sure that what you have in relation to them is supposed to be reciprocity attached to it. So if you can't give them what they need, you shouldn't be there. And if they can't give you what you need, they shouldn't be there. But
True.
you gotta be aware of what you really have. Because outside of that, you think you can have access to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like for instance, people always ask when you're dating, yo, what's your type? What kind of people you like? What kind of women you
Mm-hmm.
like? If you really, really think about it, that's a real stupid question. Because
It is.
if you get to a place in your life where you are self-aware, where you know how to take care of yourself in a better way, where
Mm-hmm.
you learn how to treat people with kindness and respect, not because it's the right thing to do, but because that's the way that you want to live your life.
Mm-hmm.
Asking me what kind of person, what's my type is then redundant because I no longer have a type.
Right.
What I
Right.
need in my life is people with similar energy to me, but that's not a
Mm-hmm.
type. That's a
Right.
state of being.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to be like, oh, I got to get somebody with like almond color eyes and big titties and, an ass that make Jennifer Lopez cry. No, I'm not going to say stupid stuff like that because that's what you say
Mm-hmm.
when you're young and in your 20s and you think everybody is just like some kind of toy for you to play with.
Yeah. Yep.
In reality, when you reach a certain point in life, you automatically create filters because you can't mess with these people no more. They don't
Right.
have what you need in order to feel fulfilled anymore. You might
Mm-hmm.
be attracted to a very beautiful person, but as soon as they open their mouth, you want to jump out of a window.
It's over.
It's
Yep.
over with.
Yep.
So it's just like I recognize I can't look behind me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I have to look forward. And for the type of people who, excuse me, for the type of people that I would have access to now, I have to make sure that whatever it is that I'm saying and doing, I am fully aware I am responsible for. I would
Mm-hmm.
not lay this at anybody's feet and just be like, here, take me as I am. I'm telling you who I am from the very beginning so that there's no confusion.
Right.
And
Right.
I feel like that's the best way to eliminate a lot of the mysteries that we usually end up having as problems down the road.
That's true. That's true. And it's like I find it weird, like we're talking more now than we probably have in human history, with
Yes.
social media and all the different outlets for that. But you get kind of like this block and delete culture, right? Like when you're done with somebody, instead of like you said, having some sobering conversation and saying, hey, look, we just not gonna vibe. I wish you the best, whatever. We just we just delete people, we just block people. Why do you think we can't have those real conversations? Like drop the fantasy for 1 second and just have a real conversation with someone and tell them, like, guy, this ain't gonna happen. Why do you think we can't do that? Why do you think we can't break that threshold?
Hmm.
You have everybody talking about I'm real, I'm real, I'm real, but as soon as someone does something you don't like, you can't tell them. You just delete them from your life.
Well, see, one thing that what I've been realizing for some time now, thanks to therapy, is that all humans work on different time levels. And we
Okay.
don't learn the same things at the same time for the same reasons. All of
Mm-hmm.
our experiences have to be, they got to go with the scope of time. And
Yeah.
so for a lot of things in life, you can't accept it as it is as long as you have an untrained ego.
Mm.
Because to answer your question straight up, it's just the ego. The ego is the only reason we can't do a lot of stuff. It's
Mm.
because if you let us live a life where there are minimal consequences for our actions and the things that we say, if you make us feel empowered by our fantasies, if you allow us to be childish in our awareness of the world and think that everything revolves around us, then whenever something hurts you, you do just crash and burn. And then you don't want anything around you, or else you'll take out your wrath on everybody around you. Like
Mm.
to be fair, I'd rather somebody just block me if they're
Mm.
frustrated with me than come at me with a bunch of accusations and and stuff that they're projecting onto me, because that I'm
Oh,
not taking. You know what I'm
okay. I
saying?
feel
Like,
that.
for instance, that has been my dating life through and through. I hear all sorts of women for most of my life being like, I just wish I could meet an emotionally mature man. I could wish me to meet a man that
So you're like,
understood
hi.
himself. Yeah, take care of himself, be responsible for what he's saying he's doing, that he just realizes who I am as a woman. Here I come. Yo, it's good. What's up? And then all I gotta do is just give them a little bit of rope. And I love the way that they hang themselves, because they're not the person that they think that they are. They're in
Mm.
a position to say, I want something. They're not in a position to say, I'm allowed to have it, because they
Wow.
can't do
Okay.
the exact same thing that they're asking for. So then
Yeah.
it's just like, so what was you asking for it for if you can't do it yourself? And now that if
Mm.
I tell it to you, you're gonna get mad at me to the point where you just wanna you wanna take out all the frustrations you've ever had against men because you couldn't meet a man who was willing to sit down and have a conversation about it. So that I'm now the poster boy for all men, when in reality, you are mad at those dudes you used to mess with, or those dudes who affected you in life, but you couldn't tell them what you wanted to tell them. So now, as long as there's a man willing to hear it, you'd rather just unload on that person,
Yeah.
even though I didn't do anything to you.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
representation. So it's just like, it made me realize it's the ego. Because now, whenever I'm about to do something, I got to ask myself, if I'm about to get in my feelings, am I trying to protect myself, or
Okay.
am I trying to pursue an experience?
Okay.
And if I'm protecting myself, I'm not going anywhere. You stand in place when you're protecting yourself.
Okay.
You can't move forward just yet, because it's a doing, it's an action. You got to finish the action so you can start a new one.
Right.
But if
Right.
I'm pursuing an experience, I'm still in motion. I'm still going.
Mm.
I didn't stop. So even if it's not working for me, I'm already on to the next thing.
Okay.
And like, coming to terms with seeing it like that helps me realize, like, oh yeah, what's the point of me having a conversation with a racist if they already made up in their mind what I am way before I open my mouth? I'm not
No
about to do
point.
it.
Mm-mm.
If I come with this energy and I'm like, I'm gonna meet you halfway, all you have to do is the same thing. So if you
Yeah.
can't even do that, I don't want you anywhere near,
Right.
because I'm trying to be practical. So if I can't even get that basic respect out of you, there ain't no purpose in this. Go ahead and
No.
block me. Go ahead, cut me off, because you lack the emotional range to finish the job. Because to finish the job, you have to look in the mirror and realize you're an asshole first.
Yeah.
And they're not going to do it. They're
No.
not going to do that. I see myself as an asshole every day, because no matter how many positive traits that I have to me, I'm still damaged on the inside. But
Mm.
what I choose to do now is acknowledge that that damage is a unique part of me. It is not something that I should just ignore or keep in the darkness. It helps me be who I am. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have tried harder to be better.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah,
Yeah. Pressure makes diamonds, right?
that's it. And I'm just
Yeah.
out here glistening right now, so I'm just saying. That's it.
So do you think that everybody, not just men, but men, women, both should pursue therapy? Just to be able to go and talk to an unbiased third party and get things off your chest.
I do, but the main reason I say that is because I think that we need to be very, very honest about several factors. One, your parents weren't great teachers. They taught you what they
Mm,
know. They could
yeah.
not teach you about life. All
Yeah.
they could do is just give you an experience. Two, most of us brought our childhood information into adulthood. And then we
Mm,
wonder why we're going through the same problems over and over and over again.
wow. Yeah.
When you are a child, adults explain a little bit of information about topics to you, because
Mm,
you are very limited and you don't have any experience. So they can't take it farther than that. But once you reach teenager going in towards adult, there was supposed to be a second part to that conversation that most adults did not give their children. And then their children walked into adulthood with the same logical process as childhood. The world revolves around them. That is where a lot of us have been fucked in the game from the very beginning. Because when you go into adulthood, you are supposed to relinquish a lot of your childhood experiences because you are about to take on a whole new wave of information and experiences. And you can't get much further if you're still holding on to this childish logic and thinking that things are about you. When in reality, you are surrounded by people who have the exact same thought patterns. You're not that special when it's all said and done. But we're not going to take that because people told us that we were special.
Yep. Yep.
Another one is simply that because of that lack of awareness due to holding on to these childhood beliefs, you're not allowing your imagination to flourish either. Imagination is one thing from a childhood that's always supposed to go with you throughout every aspect of your life, because a child's imagination is a limitless. It knows no bounds because it has nothing in front of it, behind it, or to the side.
Yeah.
All it can do is grow. When we become adults, we create mental blocks. We start building up barriers. We start protecting ourselves, all to avoid feelings that we don't have the emotional range to fully dive into. These reasons are all why you need to go to therapy, because as an adult in life, you're expected to do things, be things, and have things. But without fundamentally understanding what that's supposed to mean to you, how are you going to get very far? You're being told logic and information, but it's very, very broad, and it's meant to be said to everybody.
Yeah.
But we're all individuals on our own. And no matter what we say, there's something different in the pot for each of us. But we got to figure out what that is. Nobody can tell it to us. So it's like therapy helps unpack the broadness of information that you're being given, and then help you find a way to make it personal so that you understand what it really is. Because it's supposed to be detailed, but we talk about everything very, very broad. If, for instance, when you're talking to a child about sex, when they ask mommy or daddy, where do babies come from? If you want to give a story, if you want to give, babies grow up in the belly, that kind of thing, that's cool. But then when you're a teenager, their parents supposed to be like, okay, so this is sex ed. This is how the body works. These are the male genitalia. This is the female genitalia. This is how it all goes down. It's supposed to be part of that conversation, no different than if you're going to have sex ed. If you avoid that conversation, you will get what we have right now, where you have a generation of men that don't know how the vagina works, but always want to be in a vagina. That's just fucked up. There's no other way around it. It's just fucked up. And then you have a generation of women that know how men's bodies work, but also know that most of these men don't give a shit about their bodies, let alone any men. Now both of them are fucked up. So that's why therapy will be helpful, because on one hand, for the men, you need to learn this information, and you also need to understand what kind of energy were you bringing to these women whenever you came to them. Do you know whether or not you added to their trauma? And then for the women, it's like, okay, this pain that you're feeling, all this anguish, got to make you understand it wasn't personal. It was due to a lack of information. It's not going to make you change how you feel, but it's supposed to give you another step to be on to understand where things really, really are. To be fully honest, therapy has helped me understand how 98% of what has happened in my life was never even about me in the first place. But because no one ever gave me context, what else could I do but think it was all my fault?
So what do you mean by that?
If I'm a child and I'm being picked on, all I can think is like, why don't they like me? What did I do? Did I do something wrong? And then I'll obsess about it because I want them to like me. I didn't know I was supposed to have friends, so I want to be their friend. I don't want to have somebody that doesn't like me. So then for most children, they go out of their way to try to interact with those kids that don't like them. Try to find out, like, what can I do to change your mind? Only to constantly be defeated over and over again because they're just not going to let things change unless you do something or are something that's so impressive to them that now all of a sudden they see you in a different light. But then the whole problem is if no one teaches you that it's not your job to try to go and convince those people who were making fun of you as a child to like you, how would you know that when you're an adult and you're choosing romantic partners and dating people and you constantly find people who reject you or talk shit about you or make you feel less than, that it's not
Wow.
your job to try to convince them with time to see you differently and constantly
Mm,
abusing yourself, giving them things, giving them access to you that they don't deserve, slowly breaking you down until there's nothing left. And then you're
just
going to be
seeking,
mad at the world,
just seeking that validation.
all because you're seeking validation.
Damn.
Like
Woo.
all this information has helped me understand life is simple, humans are complex. That's why we make everything difficult.
Yeah.
Because the facts, actually, when you really, really think about it, if you just take a step away from humanity, take a step away from society, take a step away from everything that humans have created, life already built its system. It works the way it works from the
Mm,
beginning to the end.
yep.
Animals are born, animals follow their instincts, animals die.
Yeah.
The sun comes up, the sun goes down. The beach waves come in, then they go back out. It's all very, very simple. Very complex reasons for all of it, but
Mm,
the sum total is very, very simple. We, on the other hand, no, 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 no. We'll never let that be. We have to make it worse than it actually is because we're not honest. We're not honest because we're not ready to accept that a lot of the building blocks for society were only meant for that time era. It wasn't meant for us to bring it all the way down hundreds of years later into the
mm,
places that we're in right now. Just like
mm-hmm.
no different than us being able to have this conversation because we realized that our fathers and grandfathers did not have the emotional range to express a lot of the issues that we were going to face as we were growing up. So
Mm-hmm.
we don't have the luxury of being like, Pops, I need you to finally step up to the plate and tell me how to do this. No, we got to do it ourselves now.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's just, again, it's just realizing a lot of this stuff is simple, but because it was never brought to our attention, how would you know?
You wouldn't.
And that's
You
it.
wouldn't.
You wouldn't. And the main thing that I learned in these last couple of years was from this self-help workshop called Momentum Education. And one of the things that they really pride themselves on, or well, two things that they pride themselves on is saying there are things that you know, things that you don't know, and things that you don't know that you don't know.
Okay.
And that third part is why we get into so many problems because we walk into spaces thinking we know what's going on, but we don't know everything that's around us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we experience frustrations because we have an idea of what it should be like, but we really don't actually know how these things work. We see other people experience it, or we see other people do things, but we don't know the backstory. So we're just like, I'm supposed to have what you have, even though you have no idea how they got it.
Yeah.
And then the second part was be, do, have. Be what you want, do what you want, have what you want. But the only way to get done, you got to start somewhere. That's why you got to be it. So when they say fake it till you make it, that's you being it.
Okay.
You you do the work to be what you're saying you're going to be, so that
Okay.
eventually you now have exactly what you said that you were going to be.
Okay.
And so taking those two philosophies and really really just taking a step back and looking at everything that I've been through in life, I was like, yo, that makes a lot of damn sense right there, bro.
It
Like,
does.
damn,
It does.
it really is. It's like when we say life is a rat race, it is because we're all on these damn hamster wheels. And the only time you really, really make a difference is if you just jump off. But you got to
Mm,
have a reason to jump off. You can't just do it just because you don't like something. Because as soon as you jump off, you start a journey. The journey got
mm-hmm.
to have a destination. You got to have a
Yeah.
direction. So that's
Yeah.
the whole point of like honestly being able to decide for yourself when things really don't make any sense anymore. And I'm
Mm.
not gonna lie to you that most of these realizations came from mushrooms. Having nice psychedelic trips opened
Uh-huh.
my mind up a little bit, made me
Yeah.
reconsider certain things. But overall, learning that I had a control problem because I assumed that I was in control of things in life that I had absolutely no control over. And the idea that how I look to other people is
Mm,
more important than how I feel.
mm,
And now that I understand that those parts of me don't work well, it was more or less taking a step back and being like, okay, I can't worry about how I look towards other people. I spent most of my life doing that. What
mm-hmm.
could it hurt to try something different after all this time? I
That's
am not
true.
in control of anything in life other than how I react to anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only space of my life that I have control over. Like, if you're really, really being honest, when you strip everything away, people love to say stuff like, yo, I did it by myself. I got here by myself.
Ah,
It's one of the best lies
that's
humans
cap.
have ever crafted because there's no such thing as doing it by yourself.
Mm-mm.
Everything in life is based on a series of decisions throughout
Yep.
time that
Yep.
build up with it. You can't even exist until your parents tell you to fuck.
Right.
So how did you do it by yourself? From the very beginning, two other people were required to even build this scenario to even start up in the first place. And then even
Mm-hmm.
from there, every place you go, every person that you meet, every decision made is based off of other people's decisions.
Yeah.
You get a job, somebody decided that you should have that job. You get a
Mm-hmm.
car, somebody decided to build that car. It's all the same thing after a while. It's just like you're not the only person at play. We're all at play.
Yeah.
We're all moving and making things happen. Only responsibility I have is that when I step into the building, I just need to make sure I know why I'm saying what I'm saying. I need to know what I'm doing, why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I
Mm-hmm.
need to be aware that there are a ton of factors that can change the outcome of any situation that I'm a part of. And I got to be okay with that, whether I like it or not. So taking those three things, which specifically will always show up in therapy, can literally change so many people's lives because they'll realize they've had their heads up their asses this entire time. And that's why everything looks so shitty.
Oh man. Well, you in here dropping some gems, Jay.
Listen, man, as I've told you before, over many days of drinking Rain Nephew with you, uh, I I didn't experience this in my quest to learn. So I
Mm,
decided if I'm experiencing it, I'm gonna just give the cheat codes to everybody so you can figure it out for yourself from there. If you don't
yeah.
got suffer like I suffered, cool. Don't. Just utilize this so at least you have a reference.
Yeah.
Utilize this information because when I'm thinking about it, that's what all the greats did. That's
Mm,
what Malcolm X did. That's what Malcolm did. That's what Marcus Garvey did. That's what Sojourner Truth did. That's what Harriet Tubman did. Anybody who's anybody that's a historical icon, they created the blueprint because nobody else did.
yeah. Yeah.
So I am just doing the thing that I read about in textbooks because no matter what I say, I'm already a part of history. Like we're surviving COVID right now. This is going to be in textbooks in the next 10 to 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
That means we're already part of history. We are doing the thing that we used to read about our parents and our grandparents going back in the
Mm-hmm.
day.
Yep.
So in my mind, if I'm already here, then I need to step it up and make sure that when it's all said and done, whatever's written about me or whatever's said, I was the one that said it. I'm not going to allow anybody to write my story for me. I'm giving you my trials and tribulations. I've been on the internet for over 22 years. I have said some atrocious shit for the first 15 of them.
Yes, dog, you have.
And then I decided not to eliminate any of that because I wanted to show people the progression, how I
Mm,
got to this point.
yeah.
I couldn't have been as angry as I was and then just eliminate that. That's fucked up.
Yeah.
Because now I'm trying to sell you something. I ain't trying to sell nobody nothing. This is
Yep.
me.
Yep.
So I'm telling you my whole story. I'm showing you when I was at my most miserable, when I was just an angry nigga.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, I had to work my way through this anger to get to some level of common sense, to work towards peace, and then to just be able to like, wow, I like myself, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Flaws
saying?
and all. Flaws and
All,
all.
because we're all human. which means we have multiple sides to us. And this society always makes you choose. You got
Yeah.
to choose what kind of image you're going to portray. Man, suck my dick with what? You a whole person. You got a bunch of sides to you. You're not supposed to choose. You're supposed to interact. You're supposed to be a chameleon, adapt to your
Yeah.
environment.
Hmm.
And that's all I'm doing. I'm just trying to adapt, but I'm being honest about my adaptation so that no one can tell me, you didn't say this or you didn't do that. No,
Yeah.
this is my story. You don't get to tell it for me.
Uh-huh.
So
Yep.
that's just where it goes.
Like, yeah, don't try to throw that in my face. I got the receipts.
Exactly. That's it. I'm working with the proof at all times now. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just like, I already suffered. I already went through the worst of it. There could be more, but if there is more, guess what? Now I got experience on how to handle it.
So do you ever feel yourself slipping back? And when you do, you look back at those moments before to kind of get you back on track?
In the times where I thought that I was slipping, you know how people be like, yo, they're trying to turn me back into the old me.
Yeah, yeah.
I used to think that was a bad thing. Now I see that's a good thing. But only because if you want me to turn, if life is pushing me back into a space where I want to regress and forget everything that I learned and just be angry and violent and wild, what that's telling me is I'm being tested.
Mm-hmm.
Because whenever you say you want to do something in life, it's treated like a declaration. And, you know, I'm definitely now one of those people who very much believe in energy and how powerful words are. If you say, I want to change my life, the first thing life is going to say is like, oh, really? Let's see about that. Let me take a sprinkle of the shit that you hate, a dash of that nigga you don't like, and a whole heap and pile of a bunch of stuff that's about to ruin your mood and see how you react.
Yeah.
And again, choices. I can regress, but then I know I'll be right back here later again. Or I could progress and never have to deal with this again. Because you only have to do something right once.
Okay.
But if you fail, you got to do it again. So it's a choice. Whenever you are about to regress, you're choosing to regress. It's not automatic. That's the problem. We think everything is autopilot, just like that. No, the more you do something, if you pay attention to yourself, you recognize a split-second moment when you make the decision to do that thing. And if you do that and you don't like where it's going, you have the opportunity to change and make a different decision. But first, you got to make it make sense to you.
Yeah.
You got to make it make sense to you. Otherwise, you're not going to see a real reason as to why you need to do this. So it's like, the only reason I'm not looking at regression as a bad thing anymore is because fundamentally it is the reason why I'm here in the first place. It was my teacher. These parts about me that I used to reject, that I used to dislike, that I used to just keep in the darkness, they created the circumstances to self-sabotage me all throughout this journey because they are parts of me that I was ignoring. And when you ignore something that cares about you, what does it do? It tries to hurt you because you hurt it first. So I stopped treating my negative feelings like they're negative, and I realized they deserve the same positive compassion as my positive feelings. And by doing that, I'm kind of like when they say, you know, raising your inner child. That is exactly what I'm trying to do. Most of these emotions have come from my childhood. And as a child, I was ignored a lot, even though people didn't mean to do that to me. So I have to now treat these sides of me like a little kid. And when you've hurt a child, they don't fuck with you. They don't. If you abandon a child and then you come back and be like, hey, what's up? I'm like, who was you? I think they're not rocking with you.
Yeah, no.
I'm your father. I don't know you.
Yeah.
You're not a father. You a random nigga now. That's just what happens. And so me realizing that if I create that awareness for myself with my feelings, then I have a better understanding of like why these moments I self-sabotage, why these moments I regress, why these moments I blew up. Like, I'm gonna give a quick example. I went to go see the Jesse Williams Dick play on Friday. And
what the hell is that?
Okay, so if you haven't seen, the internet made a very big deal about Jesse Williams being naked because somebody took a picture at this play.
Okay.
So a friend of mine was just like, "Yo, I got free tickets. Anybody want to go?" I was like, "You know what? I'll go see the play." Now,
Mm.
I just brought up the dick part because it's just humorous the way people respond to any parts of nudity that's not on the standards that they fulfill or create.
Hmm. Hmm.
But in reality, there was so much of um, there was so much buzz about Jesse Williams being naked, and yet nobody mentioned that for the play, all of the actors are naked. So then
Mm.
it's just like this very big focus on like one particular person because that's what people like. But
Uh-huh.
then at the end of the day, all these people are there. I was like, that's a really messed up thing to do to these other men. Here they come with whatever they got, and they just want to
Uh-huh.
feel important too. And y'all just made a big deal about Jesse. That's why. So I'm there with my female friends. They're all laughing, giggity, and this shit. And I'm just there, just laughing my ass off because I'm just like, this is why we need more things to be open because this is
Mhm.
special to them right now because it normally never happens. But if it happened more frequently, there would not be anything so special about this. So I'm just like, I'm feeding off of that energy. I'm laughing. I'm enjoying myself. I end up going home. I get on the train. I'm in front of the train door, and I only got one stop to go.
Mhm.
I'm this big white dude, and comes on my by my right side. Now I'm standing in front of the door, and it is someone to my left who's directly on the door. So basically, we both know that when the train pulls up and the doors open, we're going to be the first two people out.
Mm.
But I have my headphones on, and the white dude was trying to say, "Excuse me." I did not hear him.
Mm.
Mind you, the space that I'm in is kind of tight. He stepped over my leg to go right in front of in the door. Mind you, he's bigger than me and wider than me, but he
Uh-huh.
overstepped my space and got into my personal space
Mhm.
just so he could be by the door. Not because I was blocking him. No, he just wanted to be the first person out the door.
Mm.
And I got upset about that. I was like, yo, was that necessary? Because I took my earphones out that time. Was that necessary? He was like, I said sorry. And I was like, that doesn't mean anything. Why did you have to step into my personal space? Like the stop is
Mhm.
coming up. Like you didn't have to do all that. You was going to get out no matter what. What was the
Right.
problem? Look, man, I said, oh, sorry, I don't know what you want. So then I'm realizing I'm just standing there and I'm holding an umbrella, but I also look crazy because I'm black and tall. So I'm just like, I could blow up, but I'm too smooth for that right now. Like I had a
Yeah.
great night. I'm not about to blow up. So then I'm just looking, I'm just going like, and he keeps turning back because he can feel me staring at him. And I'm
Mhm.
not happy with him. But then
Yeah.
he want to start jacking off with his mouth, talking about like, man, you need to chill out. I don't understand all that. And I was like, because you stepped in my personal space. And I don't like that. You ain't need to do all that. You need to move. Don't tell me what to do. Move your chubby ass somewhere. Don't tell me what to do. Da, da, da. So this goes on from like literally, we get to the stop, we get off. He keeps talking, but then looking back at me. And I'm again looking at him crazy because I am crazy. And I'm just staring at him, just like, I will hurt you. I'm not planning on doing anything to him, but I just wanted to frustrate him because you messed up my moment, so now I'm mess up yours. And I
Mm.
felt the petty in me,
Yeah. That.
just taking victory laps. I was like, yes, because he watched me the entire time. We had to go down long flights of stairs. He's kept constantly turning his back, looking like he was running away. Then he's trying to go down the stairs to get to the train, but he's still talking to me. And then I'm just like, what are you talking about? You ain't gonna do nothing. Da, 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 da. And then I go to chase him because I want him to think that something's about to happen. So literally, we go down the stairs, we get in the thing. He's like, he's ready to fight. And all I did was just, I had this long umbrella. I put it on the, I just put the point on the ground and then I leaned on it a little bit like it was a cane. I was like, you ain't gonna do shit. So get your big ass in the train and walk. And then he turned tomato red. He was
Mm.
so flustered, so upset. And all he could do is just keep talking. But I knew that I got what I wanted, which is to ruin his moment. Now, that is petty as hell of me,
Uh-huh.
yet I enjoyed the hell out of it. It was very childish of me, yet I enjoyed the hell out of it. And it was unnecessary after a certain point.
Mhm.
However, the reason I'm even bringing up this story is because I have a history of never defending my boundaries. And as
Mhm.
much as it would seem insignificant to another person, that is one of the moments I actually stood up for my boundaries. Although
Mhm.
it wasn't of something of worth, it was to me in that moment, in that I don't need other people to value themselves so much that you think you can just walk all over them, and it doesn't have
Mm,
anything attached to it after that.
mm,
And yes, you do have to fight in life, but every battle is not meant to be fought because some battles were already won from the very beginning. Like when I really think about it, although my goal was to frustrate that man, I had already won in life. I look better than him. He was younger than me, yet I look younger than him. He looked dirty and frizzy. I did not. I was doing fine. Now, this is just a part of a story that I'm telling myself. I have no idea who he is or whatever his
mm,
life has in turn to it. But the reason I'm bringing it up like that is because every day we go out, we have situations like that, and
mm-hmm.
people turn it into something that could end up costing you your life because of a
Yeah,
story that they told themselves in their head,
yeah,
based on the experiences that they have in life of things that they did or didn't do.
yeah.
So whenever we're outside, we're not just dealing with what we see. We're dealing with years and years of misplaced information,
Mm,
masked as people's actual feelings. And that's
mm,
why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because as much as I want to tell myself that this is unique to me or this is something special, no, we're all doing it. We're all doing it. My only goal is to make sure that I can do it so I can get away from everybody else because I don't want to be around most people because
mm,
most people are not worthy of what I have. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm just sharing what I'm sharing because somebody gonna hear it. They're gonna feel like, oh my God, somebody hears me, somebody sees me, somebody knows what I've been going through. And then they're gonna realize I don't have to do it this way no more. I don't have to accept this. I don't have to live like this if I don't want to. I have choices. And that's really all I'm ever trying to point out at the end of the day. We got choices. We just didn't know about them because, like I said, imagination is not nearly as majestic and expansive as reality. So
mm.
you gotta allow yourself to put your ego to the side and recognize that there are a lot of things that you don't know. And if you're comfortable with that, life is going to give you an adventure. But if you're not comfortable with that, life is going to put you on repeat. That's it.
Well, shit, bro. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. I
Yeah, man.
appreciate you just as you know. Uh, started out as mutual friends,
Yeah.
but at this point, I consider you to be one of my best friends and somebody that I look up to in terms of advancing myself on my mental health journey. And bro, yeah, you dropped some gems, Jay.
Bro, bro. I appreciate it. And then I want to say this to you as well. You are one of the first people to make me do something that I wanted to do despite my insecurities. That very first time coming to Banner and knowing that like I had never danced in public like that or done anything. I'm from Brooklyn. We have the West Indian Day Parade every year. I don't even know how to get started in that. Literally, the first time I come visit y'all was like, "You going to be in the parade? You're not going to the parade. You in the parade." And that was the first time I really had to deal with my body issues. Really had to deal with like who I felt like I was
Mm,
and what I thought. And then especially like between you and Kinga, it's just like there was a level of like I don't give a fuck no more that I got
mm,
from both of y'all just because I realized like why do I have to live by those rules? Like I don't do I really have to? Do I have to? So I feel like again, it's just always reciprocal. Like, yeah, I you might be getting something out of me right now, but I guarantee you, sir, I got something out of you first because it was that push. And that may have been all I needed at that time, but it was good enough to get me where I'm at right now. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And I feel like that's how this kind of brotherhood works. Like I don't just consider you my friend. I consider you someone I call like a brother because
mm,
I've seen you make choices. I've seen you make mistakes. I've seen you decide, all right, I'm not going to do this anymore, and go in the direction that you're going to. Even this right here, like
mm,
I've been saying, I'm gonna make a podcast for years. I still ain't done it yet. I'm on yours right now. You know what I'm saying? Because
yeah,
sometimes logistically, I don't have the bandwidth to make the things that I want come together because
mm,
it's overwhelming. But somebody else can do it because they already passed the part where it's overwhelming. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
like that's what I'm saying. Like this is just This is how we do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
I fed off of you. Now you're feeding off of me, and now somebody gonna feed off of both of us because look at what we just provided. You know what I mean?
There we go. It's coming full circle.
Full circle, bro. That's all it do.
Oh man. Well, bro, you have a good weekend. You have a
Same
good
to you, bro.
holiday tomorrow. Don't get in no
Yeah.
trouble.
Nope, I ain't trying to. It's right where I'm supposed to be. Just me and my cat. That's what I'm doing right now.
Okay. All right, brother. Thank you for coming on, and let's do it again sometime.
Of course, bro. Appreciate this so much.
All right, bro. Peace.
Thanks.